Hi there, I'm Christy Coloutti, the principal of Rutland Intermediate School, and we are here with another segment on Spotlight on Schools. And today we are going to be talking about the budget. So first we'll start with some introductions. Pam, would you like to start?
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Pam Reed. I am the Superintendent of Schools for Rutland City Public Schools.
I'm Bianca McKeen. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Rutland City Public Schools.
And I'm Ted Plemenos, the Business Manager for the school district.
So before we get started with the numbers, I want to maybe talk a little bit about the district's priorities. So Pam, as the new superintendent this year, what are some priorities that you have for Rutland City Public Schools?
So the priorities that I have are really in line with our strategic plan, which was an extensive amount of work that was done over the course of a year. We had about 125 to 150 community members involved in developing the strategic plan. We're currently in year 2 of the strategic plan. It's a 5-year plan. And so the 3 principles that really guide our work in that plan are teaching and learning and resources for success and wellness through inclusive school communities. My particular priorities, which weave in nicely with those, are student academic achievement, student engagement in their academic and wellness programs, fostering a collaborative culture with our stakeholders, especially our talented and hardworking staff, and ensuring that our precious resources are allocated to the best that they can be.
Bianca, with you as the assistant superintendent, what are some of your roles in terms of our priorities and our initiatives that are happening in the district?
Yeah, I'll unpack what Pam was talking about just a little bit more. You know, when we look at building our budget, we really do look at our strategic plan and the 3 main areas of the strategic plan. So the first area is teaching and learning. And for teaching and learning, you know, the nice thing about the strategic plan is all of the areas are really built to support one another and are very connected. When we talk about teaching and learning, we're really talking about instruction for students in the classroom and having high quality instruction for all students. In addition to that, it's looking at meaningful opportunities for students and how students can really connect what they're learning with the real world, as well as supporting students if for some reason they are not making as much progress with their instruction in the classroom. So when we look at our resources, we're really looking at everything connected to teaching and learning. This year we've done a lot of work to help us prioritize our standards for our students and to look at our curriculum and to look at our student data to really make sure that what we are doing is supporting student learning. In addition, the second area of the strategic plan is evolution of wellness through inclusive school communities. And it's really more about the school environment, the community within the school, the mental health resources, how we're really supporting the entire child to allow them to have when they come to school, they're really a part of that culture and that community. And that's true for staff as well. What do we need to support them while they are learning and so they can access their learning? And so the third area of the strategic plan is resources. And so how are we being fiscally responsible and really ensuring that every dollar that's going to our school budget is supporting teaching and learning and wellness for students?
Great. So laying out the strategic plan really helps guide and facilitate our budget, I feel. How have we done that this year through the whole process of the budget?
The development of the budget is pretty complex. It goes through many iterations before we actually come to the final number. The Finance Committee of the school board does an extensive amount of work. Hours of time is dedicated towards completing the budget process. So this year, some of the decisions that we made for the budget that are aligned with the strategic plan priorities include prioritizing intervention to address student gaps in learning, including at the high school level. We're also have some investments in literacy. We've dedicated attention towards exploring additional early learning childhood opportunities for students. We've expanded our classroom instruction for our early childhood special education program. We've allocated some funds to work with a consultant to drive a pathway forward in the area of math. We've earmarked some funds for the strategy that's focused on inclusive environments. It includes modernizing our elevators and the cafeteria and the kitchen at the Rutland Intermediate and Middle School campus. And we have some upgrades planned for our playgrounds at Northeast and Northwest. We've also continued our commitment to wellness by providing additional physical education opportunities for students. We've allocated resources to build our family and community engagement, such as transportation to some of our school events. And the last one I'll just mention is we budgeted some funds to address some infrastructure needs, including a new phone and public announcement system.
Fantastic. And I would say that's a quick summary. If
Yeah.
folks want to kind of see the way the strategic plan was developed, they can watch previous board meetings. I think we've had some really good conversations. Now to talk about the numbers of the budget, we have Mr. Plemenos here. So we've talked a little bit about the plan. So maybe, Ted, you can help the viewers have a better understanding of the fiscal piece of it and the numbers of the budget.
Sure. Thank you very much for that question, Christy. I'm glad to provide a little more background. So the budget that was approved by the Board of School Commissioners and which is recommended for approval by the voters would increase spending by 3.9% next year to total expenditures of $69.8 million for fiscal '27. As my colleagues mentioned, the budget was based upon what school principals, service managers, administrative leaders, and many of our other colleagues believe will be reasonable to fund the educational programs and initiatives that are planned for next year. As Pam said, these programs and initiatives are guided and aligned with the strategic vision, plan, and specific goals that have been outlined by our team. Each year, we build the plan in this way. At the same time, of course, we also carefully evaluate the total level of anticipated expenditures, and that's how the district can live within its means, maintain a cost structure that's sustainable over the long term. So this year, for example, we budgeted several essential support services such as information technology and buildings, grounds, and transportations with very reasonable increases year to year. The category of expense that will increase by the largest percentage change in fiscal '27 is that for food services, and that's increasing by 18% budget to budget. From a taxpayer perspective, it's worth noting that all of those food service costs, including the increase, are federally and state funded. So none of this increase will be borne by local Rutland City taxpayers. The reasons for the increase in food service costs are also worth noting. In spring of 2025, the district rebid its food services contract with the intent of improving quality and consistency of the foods provided to our students. Obviously, good nutrition is very important for good learning. We weren't surprised that when the new bids came in, they came in at higher costs. In general, up 14% from the prior year, and we're anticipating another 4% increase in food costs for '27. But that said, we've also seen a very dramatic improvement this year in the food being provided to our students, and we're very pleased with those results. Finally, during this year's budget process, I might note that we identified various decisions and trends that helped to reduce expenses by more than $2 million for fiscal '27 as compared with what the budget would have been without those factors. When we would learn of potentially higher expenses in one area, we would redouble our efforts to look for efficiencies and possible offsets. So I hope that helps to answer your question.
Yes, thank you. So Pam, one thing, I assume that some people in our community anticipate a significantly higher than 3.9% approved by the school board. What are some ways the budget was maintained to achieve that result of 3.9%?
So as I shared earlier, it's a pretty complex process. We knew that going into this budget season, there were some costs that were beyond our control, and that we still wanted to offer our children the best possible education. So the reality is we made some difficult decisions, but we also had some unexpected savings. So I made a list so that then I wouldn't forget any. So I'll just going to refer to my list as we go down. And one example of some unexpected savings or a cost reduction has been the retirement of approximately 30 staff persons over the last calendar year. While we have rehired all of those positions, we filled them. The cost and overall salary and benefits of those joining were less than those who were retiring by approximately $800,000, and that included all staff. We've done some improvement with the efficiency in our business office, so we were able to eliminate 2 positions. A school psychologist position was eliminated. We decided to defer the purchase of 2 school buses, as well as some asphalt repairs and some construction repairs across the district. Another savings has come from moving our early childhood special education program onto our own campuses rather than renting space. That is also true of our life skills program. That was also off campus, and now it's at the high school. We were able to decrease our expenses with several new contracts, including our printer contract, the providers of our health savings and health reimbursement accounts, as well as our flexible spending accounts, and our long-term disability provider. Although medical insurance is a major factor in our budget, thankfully, the number that came in was not as high as initially projected, so that gave us a little bit of cost savings as well. As Ted said, throughout the process, we've made adjustments wherever possible to continue to offer a high-quality education while maintaining fiscal responsibility.
Great, thank you. Ted, back to you. How does Rutland City Public Schools compare financially to budgets for other schools across the rest of the state? How do we compare?
That's a great question. One way that's a consistent way to make a comparison like you're asking for is to look at a metric that's called per pupil education spending across districts in Vermont. The reason why per pupil education spending is a good metric to compare is because it's one that the Agency of Education requires that all school districts calculate, and it requires that we calculate it in the same way using metrics provided by the agency itself. So if you look at Rutland City Public Schools per pupil education spending, we have been lower than the Vermont statewide average for many years. This year's projected district per pupil education spending is $12,666. That will be about 10% lower than what is projected as the median average across the state of Vermont of more than $14,000. The average per pupil cost for Rutland City Public Schools next year is also in line with our district's 3-year average, which again for the last 3 budget years has been $12,424. I might mention that there's a very significant range in costs across the state from district to district. There are some districts on this metric where their average cost is in the $10,000 range, and there are some that go as high as $18,000. So it really depends upon the nature of the district. But I believe that our district results reflect the careful stewardship and planning actually by many superintendents and many administrative teams in recent years. Our administration focuses, as you've heard, on delivering educational experiences based on budgets that will be reasonable and responsible for the current year, and very importantly, that we believe will be sustainable over the longer term so that we can help ensure quality and consistency. Our district also has an additional benefit of being of sufficient size so that we can achieve certain efficiencies that come with our scale, and we do our best to leverage those and deliver those efficiencies to the taxpayer. Now, another way to talk about comparing school budgets, and it's a natural way, is for people to talk about whether the school budget increases by this percent or by that percent in a given year. And as natural as that is, I just would suggest that that can also be misleading because many school budgets start in different places and they have different bases. So in my opinion, it's more important to look less at the percentage increase and more into why the spending is being made and with what outcomes, as Pam and Bianca have described. That said, the projected increase of 3.9% for Rutland City Public Schools next year is similar to the range of percentages that we've seen mentioned for school systems in our area in Vermont, and actually is well below some percentage increases that have been proposed elsewhere in the state.
Great. So as a taxpayer, we're going to the ballot, looking at the ballot can be very confusing. Can you explain the language that will be seen on the ballot?
Yes. This is a great question. Thank you for asking that. Let's start with the part of the question which is about why the language is what it is. And the simple, short answer is that Vermont statute requires the exact wording that we will see on the ballot and the 3 exact numbers that will appear on the ballot. Schools have no discretion at all in terms of what that language is going to be or what the metrics are that you present. That makes sense on one hand because by being specific about the ballot language, the way our legislators have, that helps to ensure consistency for voters across the state and can give them some confidence in the integrity of the numbers. But, of course, it can also limit the understandability and the clarity of the language. It's interesting, I've actually spoken to legislators about the ballot language, and even some of our legislators who are fairly expert in this topic will acknowledge that the language can seem confusing. And I think that's because the ballot language and the numbers are selected specifically to tie back to the mechanics of education funding in Vermont, and we all know how complicated that is. So as I've thought about this question, because obviously it's important to us, as it is to our constituents and voters, that there be understanding and clarity, and we're not going to solve that problem by changing the ballot language itself, at least in the near term. So I thought about it in a different way. Rather than wrestling with the ballot language, maybe we could work on communicating ahead of time, like we're doing in this interview and with other media communications and public meetings. We can communicate hopefully more clearly with residents before town meeting day to answer their questions. There's, it's easy to take some information and come to a conclusion that is reasonable but not necessarily relevant. So one of the things that we're doing, as we've done in the recent years, is we have scheduled public information sessions, and I see somebody over here has our flyer, which we can refer to in a moment. We've got several sessions scheduled for February, as we've done in the past. Several of us are planning to be at a few athletic events where we'll be available to answer questions, and of course, we always have the mandatory information session for voters right before town meeting day. I do want to take this opportunity to mention that the district truly does invite and wants questions from our constituents in the community. We look forward to be able to answer those questions and to hearing people's suggestions. We are serving the public. We also post information on the school website, and we try to partner with our colleagues at the City Board of Aldermen and Alderwomen by going over and giving an update. We're currently planning to see them on Tuesday, February 17th. And of course, people are always invited to call the school district with any questions. So that's hopefully going to be an approach that, if we can all have some positive communications, we're not necessarily trying to change people's minds on certain facts, but we just want to hopefully clarify what's relevant to the decision process.
For sure. I see you have a little information, budget talks. Would you like to share that
Sure.
information?
So we really, as Ted said, we really are here for you in whatever questions or concerns or thoughts you have or to learn more. You can call us, 802-786-1998. You can email us. We'll be at several upcoming school events. We'll be available to chat about the budget if you'd like. And then we're having some community-based events. So we have, on Wednesday of this week, February 4th, we'll be at Loose Luna from 1:30 until 3. On Saturday, from 10 to 2, we'll be at the Vermont Farmers Market. We'll be at the Speakeasy Cafe on Tuesday, February 10th, from 9 until 10:30. And then, as is tradition, the night before the election, on Monday, March 2nd, we will have an information session at 6 o'clock at the Longfellow Building. We would love to hear from you and happy to answer any questions and walk you through the process and the numbers.
Fantastic. I love that you're going to the local businesses. That's awesome. Why should voters of Rutland City support our school budget?
I can take that one.
Sure.
I will just start by saying that I'm a city taxpayer, I'm a city resident, I have children in the school system, I'm a product of the school system. I think there is no better way to invest in our future than to invest in our children. And ensuring that our children have a well-rounded education and have what they need to be successful helps to make our future world a more successful place. So, I think I choose to vote for the school budget because I really believe in supporting our future and our children and ensuring that they have what they need to be successful. And as you've heard today, we really do look very carefully at the budget to ensure that every dollar is well used to support our students.
I'm just going to add that we also, the programs, the support, the instruction that we offer are uniquely tailored to students. We try to think very creatively about how we engage students in their education. I'm very proud of all of the different things that we have to offer. I could probably speak for the whole half hour on what we have that benefits our students. We have community-based learning opportunities. We have an outstanding fine arts department, alternative learning spaces, lifetime and unified sports programs, a comprehensive K-12 after-school program. We have incredibly caring and talented staff, and we have state-of-the-art technology, and I could go on and on.
And over the next couple of months, we'll be reporting out building-based, all the great things that are happening in the buildings. And
Yes.
I'm not a resident of Rutland, however, I'm a strong supporter of school budgets, and just going, even in my own community, talking to folks that maybe are not involved in education, how important that is for everybody to be involved, because we all need to take ownership. They always say it takes a village, and it certainly does take a village, for sure. Ted, do you have any final thoughts on why the folks should support the school budget?
Well, I think the main points have already been described by Pam and Bianca. It's truly an investment in the future. We do work as best and as hard as we can to be efficient with the dollars and target where they're spent to do the most good. One of the reasons why we welcome public input is because if other people have ideas in terms of, have you thought about this efficiency or that step, we welcome that input because we want to get as many of the dollars into the classroom, obviously, as possible. And I can say that I've worked very effectively with many of my colleagues in the support services which enable the classroom instruction to make sure that, as Pam said, we have state-of-the-art technology, but also at an affordable cost that everybody can manage.
Fantastic. And while this is a heavy conversation, I always like to kind of lighten it up a little bit. We've had a lot of cold weather and snow, so what is your favorite activity to do in the snow, other than calling a snow day? Sorry, that was a good one.
Answer.
That was good, she said that before.
I am not a winter sports person, so I really enjoy watching the snow fall from inside my warm, cozy living room and thinking about snow days.
I enjoy looking out the window or walking around outside and seeing all the different animal tracks through the snow, as well as I do enjoy on a nice cold day, curling up and spending time with my family playing games or something like that.
When I was young, I used to love going skiing at Killington and Pico. After that, after having ruined my knees, now my outdoor activities are primarily when it comes to the snow. My wife and I have 2 Labrador retrievers, and we love throwing frisbees and tennis balls into the snow and watching the dogs hop in there, and they are so thrilled to retrieve that stuff.
I agree. Watching the dogs is
Is that
definitely.
yours?
Oh, definitely. Watch my dog in the snow,
Yeah.
just digging, madly. It's great. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for having us. And if anybody has any questions regarding the budget, like Pam said, there's been many avenues. You can join the school board meetings on Tuesdays that we have. So thank you so much for watching, and catch us next time.